All right, it is time for News 6 Extra. I'm not Kathleen Winningham. I don't think I ever will be. Maybe if I try harder. Anyway, I'm Christopher Heath. It is Wednesday, August the 6th. There we go. Yay. Okay, got my name on the screen. You're watching News 6 Extra. I am, of course, Christopher Heath, sitting in the chair. Kathleen's joining me. You already saw her name on the screen. We're bringing her back again. My popular man. There she is.
Hi.
All right, it's Wednesday.
It is Wednesday. How are you, Chris?
I'm good. You and I both live on the east side of Orange County, and I got to tell you, the last 2 nights at the house have been lightning nonstop. We have a Great Dane mix, and he does not like that.
No, my dog does not like it either. She gets the thunder code every time, and she does not like it.
Rex the Brave either hides by the air conditioning unit or goes and hides in the closet and just lays under there. And he's poor dog. Anyway, cool. All right. Well, thank you, Kathleen. We'll check back in a couple of seconds. But as much as I love to wax poetic about the weather, I am grossly unqualified for many things, but mainly when it comes to the weather. That's why we have David Nazario joining us, somebody with at least a passing knowledge of what a Q vector is and cumulus clouds and the troposphere and the Jurassic Age. That's all science stuff. Right, David? Audio on? Do I have audio on you? Dave? I'm not hearing you. I'm not hearing David. Uh-oh. This isn't good. There, I hear a click. Something. Uh-oh. All right, Kathleen, we may have to come back to David in a moment with the weather, but that's fine. Listen, again, we'll get David in there. The weather is going to be a lot of what we've had, but he will explain it much better than I will. All right, so we'll move on to our top story today, at least for News 6 Extra. And this is the ongoing saga with the question over the so-called Epstein list. This goes back years and years and has Florida ties. But the question right now is, what other information is out there? Now, the Department of Justice has been conducting interviews with the person who was Jeffrey Epstein's right hand for all those years, Ghislaine Maxwell. Now, she was in a Florida federal prison. She was subsequently moved to a Texas federal prison. And in the interim between when she was moved, before she was moved, actually, a series of interviews were conducted with the Department of Justice. And those interviews apparently were recorded, and some of them may be released. The question, I think, for a lot of people is what exactly is in those interviews, and is it the entire interview that is going to be released? Also to the question of exactly, what kind of trust do we give to a co-conspirator of Jeffrey Epstein, somebody who is themselves a convicted sex trafficker? CBS's Natalie Brand has this story.
Questioning the treatment of co-conspirator Ghislaine Maxwell, serving a prison sentence for sex trafficking.
She wasn't a victim like the narrative is trying to change right now. She was an active participant in the abuse.
Why are we listening to a known perjurer? I mean, I think if anybody needs to be heard, it's the survivors.
Maxwell, who is appealing her case and seeking clemency, is also arguing against the Justice Department's request to unseal grand jury testimony in the case. In Maxwell's roughly 9-hour interview last month with Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche, a source tells CBS News that she did not say anything that would harm or implicate President Trump.
I didn't talk to him about it.
President Trump told reporters he doesn't know what was discussed, but indicated he has complete confidence in the Deputy Attorney General, who previously served as his personal attorney.
It's not an uncommon thing to do that. And I think he probably wants to make sure that, people that should not be involved or aren't involved are not hurt by something that would be very, very unfortunate, very unfair to a lot of people.
On Capitol Hill, the House Oversight Committee issued subpoenas for former President Bill Clinton and former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton. In 2019, Clinton's office said that while he knew nothing about the terrible crimes Epstein committed, he took 4 trips on an Epstein plane in 2002 and 2003. The House committee also wants to hear from former attorneys general and DOJ officials who oversaw federal investigations of Epstein. Natalie Brand, CBS News, the White House.
moving Maxwell from one prison to another. That's handled by the Bureau of Prisons, which reports to the executive branch. It doesn't report to the Department of Justice. So if she was moved from one prison to another, which she was from Florida to Texas, that order would have had to come from somebody within the executive branch, not from DOJ. That's just simply how our federal government works on that level. All right, so back here at home, you've probably followed over the summer the controversy surrounding a former Brevard County teacher. Her contract, the district informed her that at the end of the year, her contract would not be renewed. The reason Melissa Calhoun was given is that a parent had complained that the teacher had not used the student's correct name, had used the student's preferred name, and the parent hadn't signed off on that. Here in Florida, the legislature has passed a law that says parents get to decide, not students, what the preferred name is, if there is a preferred name. And because of that, the district said they weren't going to renew her. The question then became, what happens to her teaching license? Does that get suspended? Does that get revoked? Last week, she went before the state board to find out about this. And then last night, she spoke to News 6 about this. Mark Lehman has the story.
I unfortunately didn't, review that policy.
Former Satellite High School teacher Melissa Calhoun is sharing her side of the story days after reaching a settlement with the Florida Department of Education, the state allowing her to return to teaching on a one-year probation after she was ousted for using a student's chosen name without parental permission.
That student actually requested to go by a particular name. And so, like most teachers, when there's a request, I simply complied.
Calhoun says she had known the student for years and her actions weren't political, her dismissal sparking protests outside the Brevard County School Board earlier this year.
There wasn't any intention to subvert this parent's wishes. This happened out of habit and frankly was an unfortunate oversight on my part.
Brevard superintendent, however, says it was not a case of confusion, and at this point the district will not rehire her. In a statement, Dr. Mark Rendell said in part, while the state has chosen to allow this individual to retain their certification under probation, I believe it is appropriate that the full term of that probation be completed before any consideration of employment.
And that was Mark Lehman reporting. I know my wife and I got the notices from Orange County where both of our kids are students. My sons are names, well, one of them's named Raymond, one of them's named Benjamin. They both will go by Ray and Ben. We went ahead and filled that out just so there's no confusion. If you want to call him Raymond, call him Raymond. If you want to call him Ray, call him Ray. I have probably called him worse, but, I've stepped on Legos he's left in the living room. So that is, of course, something that happens. All right, so I demur back to David. David, we have you working with the microphone again. Yes.
Yeah, we should be good to go now, Chris.
Loud and clear. I know. And the worst part was I had this great setup with all these weather terms that I knew, and I was out of weather terms.
Fantastic.
And I was trying. I have no clue. Like as long as there's no follow-up question to what the hell a Q vector is, I think we're good to go.
Oh, yeah, no, absolutely not. That would probably go over everyone's heads. But in terms of Q, we've got more than a little bit of cumulus out there firing up right now. You take a look at the current radar this afternoon. We've already started off to a rockin' beginning up in Gainesville, getting into portions of Marion County. We've got some pretty solid thunderstorms already firing off. And if you look towards the top left corner of the screen, we've already got a number of special weather statements with these thunderstorms kicking off. So it does look like once again, we're in for a very active afternoon. So you just want to be aware if you're out and about later on today. I know we're not quite into the school year just yet, but next week and the week after could be very repetitive. So start kind of coming up with a plan now to get the kids to and from safely, especially if they're out walking or biking, or even just for your afternoon commute. I don't know about you all watching right now, but this morning coming into News 6 was rough. Ambulance, EMS services all over the place. There was a crash right up front here, blocking us from getting into the gate earlier this morning. But that's neither here nor there. Temperatures, I will say, a little bit more good news. I actually have some good news built into the brief today, so stick with us. These are your temperatures outside right now, and note the difference. It's actually taking a little bit longer for many of us to reach those triple-digit feels-like temperatures. You can see right now, the Villages and New Smyrna Beach are our warmest spots, but Palm Coast reigning supreme with the biggest difference between air temperature, 88 degrees, and the feels-like temp coming in at 104 up there. But then many of us are still hovering in the upper 90s, so that relief albeit very gradual, is beginning to take place. If you take a look at our temperature change chart here, I brought this up yesterday. Notice we're starting to see more of those negative values. And when you switch over to our Euro state temperature difference, this is an anomaly in comparison to where we are starting yesterday into today. And then the next couple days, see that trend there? We're only going down slowly but surely. So while it looked like temperatures were naturally going to start dropping this past weekend, it looks like Mother Nature was needing another little nudge to get that underway. And now this upcoming weekend should be a little bit more comfortable than what we've seen. Now, forecast lows tonight once we get done with those thunderstorms, giving us those classic evening lightning shows right about maybe between 10 and midnight. I know at my house down in Polk County, we were rocking until a little after midnight, give or take. You'll notice, though, when it comes to the sea breeze, we're now cockeyed to the left. Yesterday, we saw a lot more action right over the I-4 corridor up the East Coast. Now, when I take you through our future clouds and rain modeling, you'll notice we're going to get that collision a little more interior west Central Florida. So for our folks watching in Marion County, Lake, Sumter, once again, my area down through Polk, maybe getting into the extreme western peripheries of Orange and Osceola County, the Kissimmee-St. Cloud area, Poinciana. We're going to see some really good thunderstorms later today. You can see sea breeze collision expected right around that fateful 5 o'clock time frame. Our in-house model not as active as one of our other thunderstorm models. This one's called the HRRR. And if I fast forward us out to about the 5 o'clock time frame, right about there, 6, 7, and then 8, you can see from Gainesville, Ocala, through the villages, down through, again, the Haines City, Davenport, Lakeland area, we're looking at some pretty sporty thunderstorms. So Storm Prediction Center doesn't have us highlighted for that severe risk, but you'll definitely want to be aware of your surroundings. These will likely produce more gusty winds, frequent cloud-to-ground lightning, and very heavy rainfall in a short period of time. Now, before we get into the full-fledged tropical portion of the update, Colorado State University just updated us with their August outlook. They've held steady with their thinking. We are still in store for an above-average hurricane season. I have a full breakdown over for you on clickorlando.com with a video attached, so I won't take up too much more of your time. Let's get out to the tropics. We still have 2 areas that we're watching with those favorability chances slowly on the up and up. Off our east coast, we're now at a 10 to 40 split, 10% chance over the next 2 days, 40% shot over the next 7 days. It does seem like gradual development is a little more likely than it is a possibility. We'll continue to monitor. Thankfully, it is expected to follow in hot pursuit of Dexter, which is still up there in the upper North Atlantic, moving away from everybody. We have that second area of interest associated with a tropical wave up to 20% over the next 2 days, 60% chance over the next 7 days, and then I'll take you full because I really want all of us to start just kind of keeping an eye open on a third wave that's expected to move off of Africa over the next couple days. Models are latching onto this thing as we get into more of our favorable setup for the midsections of August. And I'll go ahead and pull up our latest tropical probabilities, my favorite graphic to show you all when it comes to watching for those hot spots. You can see right out of the gate, map is lit up. Kind of looks like Christmas, even though we're still in the peak of the summertime. You can see the 2 signals associated with Dexter towards the North Atlantic, right off the Carolina coast, and another weak signal that may try to flare up into some showers and storms in the eastern Gulf off our west coast. Then if you track those colors moving into the central Atlantic, that's wave number 2, currently highlighted for the 2060. And then watch what happens when that wave comes off of Africa behind our current code orange out there. It really doesn't have anywhere else to go besides towards our friends down there in the Lesser Antilles of the Eastern Caribbean. And notice that those probabilities continue to tick up as it does so, generally moving off towards the west-northwest. That one's not really going to have an escape route provided by an area of cutoff energy high up in the atmosphere like the current AOI in the Atlantic, let alone anything coming off the United States to nudge it towards the north. So that's the one we'll be watching for you in the long term, most definitely. Now, before we wrap up, here's a couple tropical headlines I want you to focus on. Busy period is still ahead. This could be a lot busier than what we saw last August. We kind of had Debbie, which did make landfall in Florida, and then we were dead until Ernesto several weeks later. Do have those AOIs out there showing sign of development, those 2 areas highlighted by National Hurricane Center, and that last wave is definitely being watched very closely. Now, finally, bringing you back close to home, here's a look at your 7-day forecast. Rain chances are going to go back and forth, but we're going to maintain a pretty steady rhythm with right about the 5 o'clock hour. Thunderstorms are going to begin to ignite, and because we have so much hot air out there, they're going to stick with us well past sunset. So truthfully, entire second half of the day, if you're the unlucky ones or the lucky ones, if you haven't seen the rain just yet, you're probably going to be in for some chop as we go between 5, 6, all the way through to the morning or the early morning hours of the following day.
Yeah, it really lights up the sky if you're under one of these. And the last couple, you heard Kathleen and I talk at the beginning. The last couple of nights, it seems to have just parked itself like right over my house. Like it's like, oh, let's go visit Chris, because I've talked to some of the other people, who work here, and they, obviously we live all over Central Florida. So some are like, haven't gotten a drop at the house, and I'm like, ooh, I've gotten a drop. I've gotten some lightning strikes, and you get up in the morning and you can kind of see the pine needles everywhere, and you can tell something really blew through. So
It's
these
like at
things
this
are a
point, you're
doozy.
like, do you want to borrow some?
Right? Yeah, no kidding. I was going to cut my grass last weekend, and then I was like, no, I'll be fine. I'm not going to be fine. I'm going to be bagging that thing, and and those kids of mine are no help. So it's the problems at
boy.
the Heath household just compound themselves. So David, thank you for your time, and thank you for volunteering to come over and help me take care of the yard.
Oh, there it is. All right, voluntold. Very familiar with that.
Implicitly suggested. All right. Thank you, David. All right. So
course.
as David mentioned, we are stuck in our nice summer heat pattern and possibly some storms rolling in. So we'll be right back. But as we go to break, you can take a look at some of our tower cams and beach cams. We'll see you in a couple minutes. Saw pizzas walking through the background there and got briefly distracted. Okay, well, we're following a little bit of breaking news right here out of Savannah, Georgia, where a report just came across from the Associated Press of a shooting at Fort Stewart, Georgia. And if I remember correctly from my time covering the military, that's where the 2nd Armor Brigade combat team is located. Obviously, a developing story we will update on both online and on air as more details come in on this shooting in Georgia at Fort Stewart. Okay, so back here at home, as I mentioned, school gets started for most students next Monday. And when it does, most kids heading back to class will be ready to go on the first day. But for a lot of families, there's a struggle involved with getting ready for that first day. Economic issues, family issues, all of it can compound things and make for a very stressful time as parents get their kids ready for that first day. News 6 anchor Ginger Gadsden has this report.
This is our second time going through this.
For Kimberly Bravo, school mornings don't start with a drive to campus. Sometimes they start with a long walk or a phone call to her mom, hoping she has gas money.
I don't feel like I'm a mom to my full potential, you know, because I can't really be there for them. I can't go pick them up if my mom is like, you know, I don't got gas today.
She's been homeless for more than a month this time, moving between hotels, shelters, and sometimes even sleeping outside. She and her partner Solomon do what they can to provide for the kids. Their latest bout with homelessness started after she and Solomon lost their apartment. They were already living paycheck to paycheck. Then he lost his job and the rent went up.
It was just kind of like became overwhelming for me to pay. I ended up getting evicted.
So they moved from hotel to hotel.
We paid $2,000, $2,500 a month for a hotel. It's ridiculous because realistically, we could have paid 2 months of rent with that.
Kimberly says this is the vicious cycle once you have an eviction on your record.
I feel like in Florida, once you have an eviction on your name, like you're considered a felon.
Every application for an apartment costs money. Money they don't have.
We don't have money to bring the kids to school, so the kids are with us. And when that adds up, it's like, oh, wow, your kids have missed a month of school.
Missing school means learning is disrupted. And when they do make it to class, Kimberly says struggles and questions follow them inside.
The school talks about how we bring them, you know, like if they don't wear their uniform or if they're dirty and if they don't got shoes on.
And she's not alone. Last year, Orange County Public Schools identified almost 9,000 students as homeless, the most in Florida. More than 600 of them were living in cars, parks, or other places not meant for people to sleep. For Kimberly, it's a constant juggling act, finding work close enough to walk to so she can still get her kids to school and back.
We both are good hard workers. We both looking for a job. Everything that's close is already being taken up by people who are residential here, you know?
And she knows her kids feel the weight of it all.
They sometimes even say that they'd rather be out there sleeping with us because they don't want us to go through it alone.
Still, she pushes forward for them.
Honestly, it's given us the strength to keep going. When you're doing it for your family, it solidifies it more.
In Orange County, Ginger Gadsden, News 6.
And when you think about what that means, especially for the kids, because we think about like the lost education, you don't get fifth grade back. That year's gone. And so it's important to try and wrap your arms around families like that and try and help them with whatever resources are out there to try and ensure that the kids get the education they need. So certainly hope the best for that family. One of the things that many kids and older kids, I know as a professor out at UCF, I run into students all the time who are, well, trying to run into me on e-bikes and e-scooters. They're everywhere, and you've probably seen them on the sidewalks or in parks. Well, different communities have taken different approaches to these things. Some of them trying to ban them outright, some of them trying to put limits in place, some considering perhaps an education course for the kids and older kids on the proper use of an e-bike. Emily McLeod takes a look at exactly what people recommend, experts recommend you do to keep your kids, well, and yourself out of the ER.
I'm News 6's Emily McLeod. With the rise in popularity of e-bikes, there's also been a rise in concerns when it comes to safety. We're here at Wheelworks in Winter Garden, where the owner is working to make sure kids and adults are educated when it comes to e-bike safety. Dennis Jones owns Wheelworks in Winter Garden. He recently hosted a workshop on bike safety.
We kind of made it pretty broad, covering a lot of different safety standards, but e-bikes definitely are a part of it because a lot of people don't know the different classes of e-bikes, the requirements, the age limits.
Jones understands why e-bikes have become so popular, but also in some cases may not be the best option. According to a recent study, more than 20,000 people are injured annually while riding e-bikes, with around 3,000 people requiring hospitalization.
I always tell everybody it's the right bike for the right place, and unfortunately some of the e-bikes aren't used in the right places.
There are 3 classes of e-bikes. Classes 1 and 2 can go up to 20 miles per hour, and Class 3 can go up to 28 miles per hour. Jones says e-bikes can be a great option for kids to get to school, but adds there should be some type of training for e-bike safety and the rules of the road.
I think a minimum, some sort of education certification website, possibly, that would, run them through the basics of traffic laws, just so they know, crosswalks, things, stoplights, turning, things like that.
Trooper Migdalisis Garcia with the Florida Highway Patrol encourages parents to have a conversation about e-bike safety with their children before the first day.
Making sure that they're practicing safety by wearing their helmets, crossing the roadway when they are supposed to, and not just darting across in the middle of the roadway mid-block where there's no crosswalks.
Garcia reminds drivers to be on the lookout for e-bikes and e-scooters as kids head to school.
Limit any distraction in your vehicle, because just one extra look before you turn right can actually save a life from a pedestrian or an e-bike or a kid on an e-scooter.
In Orange County, Emily McLeod, News 6.
Oh, the e-bikes. Kathleen, what are your thoughts? You've been on an e-bike, you've been on an e-scooter. Is this something that you're tooling around on?
You know, I have not tried an e-bike or an e-scooter, and I think that's probably wise because I don't think I'd be able to navigate it very well.
I will tell you, I see people on them and they look like they're a lot of fun. They look really convenient. But then when I see people like on the e-bike itself and, they're not pedaling, they're just on it. And I'm like, kind of defeats the part of the thing about a bike or a scooter is you get a little exercise. And, if you let the battery do all the work, come on. It's not fair.
I just can't believe the students try to run into you at UCF.
I don't think they try to. I don't think they try to. I'm not as nimble as I used to be, and I maybe don't get out of the way. But yeah, some of them aren't paying attention, and they come at you pretty quick. Like you don't realize once tooling at you, they're moving. So, yeah, it's every day's an adventure out at the old campus. All right, so our last story here is on the foods at the State Fair of Texas. You've been to the State Fair of Texas?
I haven't. My mom lived in Texas for many years, but I never made it out there in time for the State Fair.
I grew up in Dallas-Fort Worth, so I'm a big fan of Big Tex out there waving.
Yes, exactly.
The big jeans on. And, years ago, I remember when they first started this, it was originally just a couple of things they would deep fry. And then it kind of became some sort of weird post-apocalyptic food gauntlet of let's just see what we can drop in the fryer and see if what works. So this is what you gave to me to read here. So we got the Vietnamese crunch dog, the Chill and Thrill. There's the Vietnamese crunch dog. The Chill and Thrill Delight. That does not look appetizing at all. Chill and Thrill Delight right there. What is that? It almost looks like Skyline chili, which is horrific in and of itself. All right, the candied lemon sour face. I could see that. This is the one. Russo's Dubai chocolate funnel cake fries. I'm putting that on a yes. That's a try.
Yeah.
And crab and mozzarella, hard pass on that one. Okay, what's the last one? We got cookie chaos milkshake. Yes, absolutely trying that one. 5 out of 5 on that one. There's your Dubai chocolate cheesecake. Sure, you had me at cheesecake and chocolate. Coconut quadruple. Pretty good. That one seems like that one might come with a little booze in it. You slip an extra $5, get a little shot of rum, and then deep fried deli tacos. Oh, go for one of those. Ooh, no, wait, hold on. Now here we go.
Right.
Brisket and brew stuffed pretzels. A little beer cheese there.
Right. That caught my eye. I was actually looking that up about that because if you're going to go to Texas, you got to have brisket.
Yes. Beef brisket.
Yes.
I listen. I've almost gotten in fist fights here in Florida because you get a lot of the Carolina barbecue, and I'm a Texas barbecue guy. Beef.
Absolutely.
It's what's for dinner. But some of these look good. They did like deep fried butter a couple years back, and they'll deep fry a Snickers and all kinds of stuff like that. And most of it just seems like you're just daring your doctor to have a hard conversation with you.
Right. I'm not so much about the deep fried stuff and like the deep fried Oreos and I'm not so much about that.
Yeah, but good old State Fair of Texas, just putting food in front of you and saying, "Here, you figure it out."
Right, but then you got to ride the rides, and I don't know if that's a good combo with some of these foods.
And it's nice and hot in Texas, so it'll be good times in the Lone Star State. All right, Kathleen, thank you for your time today. Well, the stars at night are big and bright.
Deep in the heart of Texas.
There we are. All right, thank you for watching News 6 Extra. I'm Christopher Heath. We will be back here tomorrow to do this all over again. You can, of course, catch us. There's David. there's David. Bye, David. You can catch us, of course, on air coming up at 4 o'clock with News 6. Otherwise, we'll see you back here at 12:30. Thanks for watching. Have a great Wednesday.